So, this is not a video I thought I'd be making, nor is it the type of video I want to continue making after all this is said and done. But I also think this is something that needs to be made into a video so that my story doesn't get lost all over again. So for anyone not in the know, before I was a VTuber, I was a creator in the slideshow commentary community. I was in this community on and off for a decade, starting at the age of 14 up until I was 24. And in my time in this community, a lot of harm was brought onto me by multiple individuals. I've already spoken before on this channel about my experience with both George Raccoon and Susie Doodletones, but all of that is only scratching the surface of the shit I had to be put through. And that is where we move on to Hiten Mitsuru, a former member of the community who is now known for some pretty heinous things. And at the time of writing this, her accountability video was released only last night. And while I won't be touching on anything else that she speaks of in this video, I will be speaking about her apology to me, as well as getting into exactly why I do not accept this apology even remotely.
To Safi, I wanted to apologize for making your story public before you were ready to. When the doc about Ray was being made, I was told by Avi that your experience was already included with your permission, rather than double checking. I took his word for it, because it seemed like a weird thing to lie about. I should have dug into that more, and I regret not doing so.
You know, my favorite part of all of this is that out of everything you have done to me, the only thing I get an apology for is you publicizing my abuse without my consent. And even when you do that, you push the blame onto someone else who has hurt me severely. So, what does Hiten mean by making my story public before I was ready? Well, let me point you all in the direction of the massive document about Rachel Mills, aka my sexual assaulter. You see, back when this document was first released, Hiten was one of the first to have her testimony made public. And instead of just focusing on what she personally went through with Rachel, she decides to speak on the experiences of others, including Practically Silver and everyone's favorite, Christopher, Caden Monroe. But alongside these two, she also spoke about something that happened to me. And I quote, "She cheated on Gwen, who was going by Holly at the time, and as I was friends with Gwen back then, I was totally furious. Given what we know now, I am not surprised she was prone to doing that." First of all, it's so obvious you did not care about me at all, given you got this story completely wrong. Rachel did not cheat on me in 2017. In fact, we were not dating at all in 2017. In 2017, I was dating former commentator and close friend Autumn Kohai while I was stuck in an abusive home situation. And in August of that year, her and I broke it off. And this was something that, given my situation, obviously affected my mental health. Then, not even 2 weeks later, I found out through hints all over Twitter that Autumn and Rachel had been together, and that Rachel had been telling people explicitly to not tell me. And understandably, this sent my already fragile mental health into a spiral that nearly cost me my life. I had a group of friends at that time who stayed in a call with me until they knew I was safe after a suicide attempt, and one of those people was Hiten herself. Now, I'm not here to say she was wrong for being upset at Rachel here, but I am here to say that it is so fucking wrong of her to use my story against Rachel far before I was ready to say anything. And the bit about Avi? I do not know what fucking possessed you to trust Avi with the idea that I gave you the okay for my story to be included. Because by the time this document was being made, I hadn't spoken to Avi in over a year. Hell, at this time I spoke to almost no one from the SEC. And I certainly didn't give permission for my story to be used since I didn't even know there was a document being made about Rachel to begin with. So no, I don't accept your apology, because it's clear from the start that you cared more about putting Rachel on blast than you ever did about me. And I can tell you for a fact this is true, because when I came out myself about Rachel in October of 2023, I never heard a peep from Hiten. No condolences, no acknowledgement, nothing. I never got that. Not even when we were both in the Cloud Palace months after. I never heard anything. And I know it's because she weirdly fucking hated me. She and I had not spoken since early 2018, when I was still 17 years old going on 18. And even so, we had only been friends for a few months total beforehand. Now, this is where I can admit that I was pretty emotionally dependent on her and a few others at this time. And while I will say I wouldn't blame anyone for being off-put by this, you need to remember I was a child who had only just escaped her abusive household, and right after the fact was isolated by my friend group for shit that did not even happen. And you see, I was isolated after Maiden Vivian, aka Channel Grey, lied to everyone that I cheated on Autumn with her. When the real story is that this 21-year-old woman pushed me, a 17-year-old, into having intimate sexual discussions with her while I was a child and in a monogamous relationship. And none of the adults, including Hiten, questioned this at all. I said before that Hiten never reached out to me, but I certainly reached out to her. I sent her an apology in the beginning of last year after I had previously spoken to Bubbling Brook, her roommate, to see if it was a good idea. I was told she probably wouldn't accept it, which still is confusing to me since, again, any of our experiences happened when I was a child, and if there's something else I did, I was never told. And the worst part is, it was never acknowledged. She just blocked me and moved on, which, again, I don't fucking know what I did, so how do you expect me to be able to apologize and work on it to begin with? I've heard pretty frequently that Hiten is the type of person to hold grudges, and yeah, I can see that. But this all brings me to my last point. Why is the only thing I get an apology for is you making my story public? There was no acknowledgement of your support of George and Susie. No acknowledgement of you isolating me and pushing me closer to Rachel. No acknowledgement of you and others in the Cloud Palace accusing me of implanting this idea into my partner's head that he was being groomed by someone who also groomed me. And that doesn't even mention the other fucking awful things you had said about me and other victims of Rachel in the Cloud Palace. And no apology at all to either Autumn or Leo? Give me a fucking break. So no, Hiten, I don't accept your apology. And while I'd love to tell you all of this myself, you decided to disable the comments on your video. So this is the best I can do. So just do me a favor. Fuck off.